You have a really famous TED Talk that has millions and millions of views. I've seen it before. This is Jennifer Cohen. She's an expert when it comes down to what makes someone tick, when it comes down to goals, when it comes down to self-doubt, when it comes down to motivation in many ways. What was this all about? You talked about something about a 10% goal, setting a goal properly, and it's a little bit unconventional, and I'd like for you to share it.
Thank you, by the way.
I put a link down below for Thrive Market. If you are doing any kind of eating pattern, I don't care if you are vegan, if you are paleo, if you are keto, if you are AIP, it does not matter. Eating in a deficit can still give you these benefits that we're talking about. So Thrive Market's an online membership-based grocery store. That link gets you 25% off your entire grocery order. That means everything you put in your shopping cart, you're gonna save 25% off that grocery order. Plus you get a free gift, and this is only if you're using my link down below in the description. Okay, I've been working with Thrive Market on this channel for 5 years, touting them in all kinds of videos. They're a huge sponsor, so that link down below saves you 25%. Plus, the best part, you order up your groceries, you can sort by diet type, figure out what works for you, and then it gets delivered to your doorstep within 2-3 days. So A, you get everything that you could ever want, and you can search for it, and you can sort by diet type. B, you don't have to waste your time going to the grocery store, running into people you don't want to run into. And C, it ends up at your doorstep, all packaged up, all in a really good way that you can just rock and roll, put it in your pantry, or even put their sustainable meat and seafood options directly in your freezer. Okay, so check them out down below in the description.
It's called the 10% target, and it is a strategy that I really believe and I implement with everything, and I tell everybody to do. If they want to achieve a goal, I said that my TED Talk was called The Secret to Getting Anything You Want. And in my opinion, the way to get anything you want in life is to be working this 10% target. And what it is and how it works is that you pick a goal. It could be anything. And then you make 10 attempts at it. And what will happen are either two things. One, you will achieve the goal, or another opportunity will present itself that you never even knew existed by just working the process and going through it. Now, what you also get with that is the practice of failure, right? Because the more you do something, the less it becomes, you become desensitized to the feeling, right? So a lot of times people don't even make one attempt at something. Most people, almost nobody makes 2 attempts. So if you're somebody who makes 10 attempts at whatever that thing is, your chances of achieving it has just gone up 100-fold, right? And so the idea is getting comfortable with failure, getting comfortable with not getting, that makes you more resilient. It desensitizes you to the feeling of failure, if you become immune to failure, and your chances have just now gone up, you know, 1,000,000 times. And the truth of the matter is, I want to make sure people know this, that I'm not saying you're going to get that goal. Like I said, a lot of times you may not get that goal, but going through the process, another opportunity will definitely present itself that you never even knew existed by just going through it.
Interesting. So, I mean, can you give some examples of that? So it's like you set a goal. Let's say I have a goal of running a marathon, okay? And, you know, I don't necessarily, let's say I get to 3 weeks before the marathon and, you know, I twist my ankle or something and I can't do the marathon, right? But I failed. Doesn't mean that it's going to stop me from trying another marathon, but are you suggesting that we find a different goal and attempt a different goal, or do we attempt that marathon again?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I say is, don't find a different goal, just go about that goal differently. Find 10 ways.
Do it on your hands.
Yeah, do it on your hands, exactly, exactly. Or can you ride a bike doing it or something? Like finding 10 strategies or ways, attempts at getting to that place. Most of the time you don't even need that. So like the number 10 is so people know right out of the gate that that's what they have to do. So when they fail the first and second and third time, they can get themselves right back up again and try it again, right? Because they know it's much easier to keep on going when you already have that number that you already put it out there, that's the number that you have to kind of get to, right? Most of the time by 10, you've already even achieved the goal, or the other opportunity will present itself that you never even knew existed. So for the sake of argument, let's say it is a marathon, right? And you sprain your ankle. So what do you do again? What do you do next time? You attempt for another marathon, right? Or you figure out another way to do that marathon. Maybe it is doing a bear crawl, or maybe it is riding a bike, right? Or maybe or maybe it's like doing it on crutches and then taking extra breaks. People have to be creative, right? But it's more about the philosophy, and it's about the strategy of how to get comfortable with the fail, with that. It's about becoming resilient, because the reality is the people who fail the most are the ones who succeed the most, right? It takes a lot of, people get knocked down all the time. People only see the iceberg on a success story, right? They don't see all the hard work and angst and failures that happen underneath, right? And so what really happens in real life, right? And I know it's happened in my life, and this has been anything I've ever achieved, it's because I've failed a gazillion times before then that no one ever saw. And I'm sure it's the same thing with you.
I've sucked at just about everything I've done.
Me too.
I just always say I'm like a kind of a mediocre jack of all trades. I've just kind of done everything and never been that uber good at any particular one thing. But what people see is, oh, you've got 3.5 million YouTube subscribers. Like, you must have just been born gifted, and this is that and that. I'm like,
Exactly. Because people have a very short memory, or they don't know what they don't know, right? So they only see that 3.5 million subscriber list or subscriber number. They don't see all the times and how much effort and years and time and commitment and failures that went into doing that, right? It's like the same thing in my life, right? Like almost everything I've tried, I failed at. But a couple things, because I was resilient, but I was also tenacious with, like, even though I failed, I may have gotten a master's at falling, but I got a PhD in getting myself right back up and trying it again and trying it again and doing it again, or doing it another way. And that's really what it's about, right? Like, it's about the not letting those failures keep you down. You can get knocked down, but you got to get right back up. And what I tell people all the time is, you know, failing doesn't make you a failure, but quitting makes you a quitter. So that, to me, is what it's all about. Failing doesn't make you a failure, but quitting does make you a quitter.
And oftentimes you end up stumbling across something that you never knew was going to exist in the first place too. I mean, let's just say, this purely for the sake of our marathon analogy, let's say you decide, okay, I can't run this marathon, but I'm going to, I can't run this marathon, I can't use my feet anymore, so I'm gonna do a 100-mile bike ride instead. Like, you can pivot a little bit, right? Maybe it's not the marathon. I guess my point in saying that is maybe you discover something that you never knew you were really good at.
100%.
And you sucked at running, and you were like, I was gonna schlep through this marathon at 6 hours. Man, I hopped on the bike, and holy crap, I might actually win.
That's a great point.
And you never realize it, right? Or it's like, even with me and what I do on YouTube, I stumbled into this by failure in other ways, right? Like, if certain things didn't work out, like the fitness industry just wasn't, I was never gonna like make it in the fitness industry. And it was like, so I kind of spun up and just did my own thing. It was like the rejections and the failures that positioned me in a different way, and it opens your eyes to different opportunities.
Right. And it makes you figure stuff out. Like, it puts you in a path of action is what it does, right? Because so much time is spent in our heads thinking of what if, and if I did, I did not. The idea also is rejection is so much better than regret, right? Like, I don't know about you, but the idea that if I didn't do something, I will always think about the what ifs. What if I did that? What could have been? How would that have been? And like, it gutturally lives with you forever. Versus trying and failing, getting rejected, or whatever that might be. Does it sting for a minute? Yes. Could it sting for a day, 2, a week, 3? Maybe. But eventually, you move on. And that, to me, is way better than the idea of never trying and never even going for something. This thing is, and I'm sure also with you, like me, most of the things that I've failed at now, if you asked me what they were, I can't even remember them because they weren't important, or because at the end of the day, it was a dot that connected to something else down the road that I never even knew was out there, that I never even knew existed. But I had to have had that failure for another opportunity to show itself up, so then I can like act on that. That led me down this other path that like changed the entire trajectory of my life. And so people have to reframe what they see as failure. I see failure as an attempt. I don't see it as a failure. It's a reframe.
And when you're talking about nutrition, when you're talking about weight loss, sometimes you will stumble across things that work for you and sometimes things won't work. And I'll use my own example. You know, when I was losing weight, I tried all kinds of different styles of eating. And I tried eating 6 meals per day. I tried doing that stuff and it just didn't click with me. I'd lose a couple pounds here and there. And then for me, I found intermittent fasting and it worked. And it didn't just work, it worked phenomenally well. And now I've built a giant brand out of that story. And it's just a perfect example. If I had have lost weight eating conventional 6 meals per day, I don't know if I would have had such a polarizing story that would have ever like gotten to be where I am now. Right? So it's like those failures of different diet attempts that didn't work for me led me to the diet attempt that did work, that I fell in such love with and got so passionate about that I was able to build this brand off of.
So you basically used the 10% target to find intermittent fasting.
Essentially, but I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew things weren't working. I've always said that one thing that I always have is I will outwork people in a room. Like, kind of like Will Smith says, you know, you put him on the treadmill, you know that quote where he's like, I'll either die or I'm gonna win. And for me, it wasn't like a winning mentality, it's just, I just have a don't quit mentality. Yeah. So it's just, like, I actually don't care too much about winning. I'm not that results oriented, I'm just not quitting oriented.
Yeah.
And like, for me, like, I just can't live with myself if I quit. So for me, it was like, okay, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. And this all happened in a short time frame, but then like fasting just worked, it clicked. And it was like, great, cool. Holy cow, that was amazing. That's the only thing that worked. I'm gonna shout it from the rooftops. And I shouted it loud enough that, what do you know? Like, here I am now getting to meet with amazing people, do amazing things. And my entire life got turned around by failing multiple times.
Absolutely, that's a great point. I love that. Maybe you can teach me how to be an intermittent faster. I've tried that a few times. It hasn't worked for me. I haven't found the one that has. Oh, yeah. Maybe you can help me later on.
So where can everyone find you?
They can find me on YouTube. I have a podcast called Habits and Hustle. And they can also find me on Instagram, The Real Jen Cohen. They can go on my website, jennifercohen.com. My book is called Bigger, Better, Bolder, available everywhere. All the things. Perfect. All the things, Thomas.
Okay. And all the things are listed down below in the description. Thanks, Jennifer, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.